This pen is so that I can get your signature somewhere on my body and go get it tattooed afterwards.
That's right.
So we'll put some rock star status on your name as well.
That's right.
Scott, has anyone ever tattooed your signature on their body?
They haven't, but I have.
Hey everybody, welcome out to the next episode of the South Valley Chamber Podcast with Jen and Dave. I'm Dave.
I'm Jen. Welcome back.
We are deep into the heart of summer, Jen, and it's hot outside.
It's so hot out there.
Right? I think I leave all my windows cracked when I get in and hope that my AC just like blasts me when I get in my car, right?
Right? Yeah. How about your air conditioner at home? We've already had like the repair out because it's working so hard.
Yeah. So after we did our home last year, we now have 2 ACs in our house. So I got dual climate in each one and they're cold.
Good. Congratulations.
Yes.
But I have to say, thank you, Mountain America, because we are in a lovely, air-conditioned, beautiful studio.
This is great.
Thanks to Mountain America.
Yeah. So, funny story as we're jumping into this episode. Usually we like to play some chit-chat. And how's your kids? And how's summer? And what lake did you go to? And how's your vacations? We've been busy this summer, right?
It's been so busy.
So busy. So, along with Mountain America and everything they do to help us out and sponsor with the podcast, we have an amazing guest today.
Amazing.
And a funny story. So we go into our office, we're talking about our hellos, we're saying hi, we're talking about the episode and what we're going to do. Our guest today is none other than Zions Bank alum, Scott Anderson. We're walking through the hallway of the Mountain America building, and guess what the employees do? You're Scott Anderson. Can I shake your hand?
And also, why is he here?
And I'm sure there's the rumor mill starting all over the place at this moment. So
Yes.
without further ado, we'd like to welcome Scott Anderson onto the podcast today.
It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thanks for being here, Scott. Do you want to just make sure that the rumor mill doesn't get too out of control right away?
That's right. I'm just happy to be in the building. I'm happy they let me in. Mountain America is a great organization, though, and Sterling's a terrific CEO and a great friend, and it's just nice to be here.
Well, I feel absolutely privileged for you to be here as a leader in Utah who's benefited from some of the programs that you've created, the Women's Leadership Institute. I just feel like, I think I say this every podcast, but I really feel like we have a celebrity in our midst and someone who I just deeply admire. So thanks for taking the time to come and talk with us.
Yeah, this pen is so that I can get your signature somewhere on my body and go get it tattooed afterwards.
That's right.
So we'll put some rock star status on your name as well.
That's right.
Scott, has anyone ever tattooed your signature on their body?
They haven't, but I do have a story. One year we took Carl Malone. Carl loved to drive trucks, and so he bought this cab that was sort of gold encrusted, and he had this trailer that he would open up as a retail shop, and people could climb up and buy things, and then as they came down, he would sign them. And we took them all over the state as a promotional item,
cool.
and we were in Tabiona, Utah, and the whole town came out, and this woman came down and bought something, and she said, well, will you sign my back? And so she opened up her blouse, and it was summertime, and he just across the back just signed with this black magic marker her back, and she was thrilled and he was embarrassed, and it was just a lot of fun.
That's what I'm talking about.
So I'm not going to do it.
For you.
All right,
Let's get it
I'm not going to do it, but Carl would.
That's right. Next time I run into him, I'm gonna bring that up.
Yeah, well, he'll remember.
Have some laughs together. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we wanted to have you on kind of as a big congratulations for everything you've done for Zions Bank and for the Utah community. When was it this year that you stepped down as CEO and decided for the next chapter of your life?
Yeah, I stepped down on April 1st of this year as president and CEO, and now I'm chair of the board. So.
All right.
So they let you go to part-time status.
That's right. That's right. I still have an office and I still go in, but I don't have to be there all day.
Yeah. So how's your first summer been?
Well, it's been terrific.
Yeah.
It's been terrific. Yeah.
What do you do to keep yourself busy?
Well, there's a lot of things. As I retired, I was given a tractor trailer, John Deere, and I wanted to get into gardening and organic gardening. I think there's a big market for that.
Yeah.
Organic food. So
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And it's delicious.
yeah, and it's delicious and it's good for you.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to kind of discuss a little bit about your career in Zions Bank and some of the influence that you've had on your employees in the community. So help us understand, how long were you with Zions Bank for when you started?
I joined Zions in 1990, so I was with them about 34 years.
Wow. That's
A
incredible.
long time.
That's incredible. And how long did you serve as CEO?
Almost 25 of those years.
Wow. That's incredible. This might be a rudimentary question, Scott, but I think I'm in the search business and I talk to a lot of leaders all day, and it's there's a sentiment out there that leadership is really tough, and I'm not sure I want to be a leader anymore, right? Among the new generation. But here you are, 25 years as CEO. What inspired you to be a leader, I suppose, right? Like what brought you into leadership?
Well, I don't think there's anything specific, but I love banking. I'm passionate about it, and I really believe in sort of the miracle where you can put in $1 in deposit in the bank and I can lend out $7, and it always matches. When you want your dollar back, you get it. When I need those $7 back from the borrower, I can get it. And when you see the good that it does, giving people access to capital, whether it's to buy a home or a car or go on a vacation or start a business, it's just satisfying to see the work that you're able to do and help.
Right. Yeah, that's a big part that kind of helped me in my career in commercial finance as well, is working for a lender and knowing they had a certain credit box that they wanted to adhere to. I kind of got creative and I thought, well, I think we can find ways to get these done separately than what's in that credit box and still have a viable business, and left to become a broker in that world and not just work with one lender, but try to help customers work with many lenders. And seeing how special it is to not just get a no on a loan request because of a certain box that you hit, but think outside and really help the small business portion of that move forward, and watching that community business grow is pretty awesome. So,
and I think we're really lucky here in Utah that there are a lot of banks, there are a lot of credit unions, there are a lot of fintech companies and industrial loan banks that we are lucky that credit is accessible to, and that's made a difference. I think that's helped the economy grow, and it's helped us become a great place to start a small business.
Yeah. From the bank side of it, what did you guys think when you would see some of these new fintech banks or regional banks pop up here in Utah?
Yeah. Well, I was excited about it because I think competition makes everything better. It makes me better. It makes my organization better. It's better for the community, and so and it's a sign that the economy's growing. So I welcome that. I think it's a great sign.
Yeah,
that's great. In banking, it's changed a lot, right? Significantly between technology. But do you think the fundamentals are still there, right? It's sort of the difference is really sort of how we execute supporting people, getting money to people, right? But the fundamentals, I suppose, are still there in terms of what made Zions so successful.
Well, the fundamentals are there, and basically it's that the business is built on trust. So you believe that if you put money in the bank, when you need it, I'll give it back to you. And it's trust that if I give you a loan, that you'll pay it back. And that's what makes it work. And as long as there's trust there between the bank and the customer and the bank, it works well. But banking is really, and most people may not agree with this or don't see it, but banking is really a creative business. It's a technology business, it's an information business that's tied with how can we take a deposit, how can we give a loan and make it work for everyone, and that's really quite remarkable. We have just down the street in Midvale, we have a new tech center,
right?
And it's about 5,400,000 square feet, and we have about 2,000 employees, and that's in terms of people, that's one of the largest tech businesses in the state, and it's a bank, and I think people are shocked when they think about it that way.
Yeah. So on that forefront, obviously, Zions is looking at ways to help future,
Yeah.
right? Help the future with in businesses, banking, personal as well, right? And making those smart decisions. What is your thought on kind of AI changing into the banking world and
Yeah.
fintech, being a part of that?
Yeah. Well, I think if not just AI, but if you look at technology I think is critical to make banking faster and easier for the individual and faster and easier for the bank. And we can use it in ways to take processes and speed them up, make them more accurate. But I don't look at technology as coming in and replacing a banker or necessarily cutting FTE. But the technology is there to make, like I said, banking easier and make it easier for the banker to provide the service to the borrower. So it adds to instead of takes away. And I think that's the difference between a fintech organization at times, which is all technology and no people,
Yeah.
and a bank where you have technology but you have people, so you can deal with the bank as you want on your iPhone, on your laptop, on a phone, at an ATM, or you can go in and talk to a person.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Essentially, banking is technology, but it's, as you said, relationships and bringing it
Yeah.
back to trust.
Yeah.
Thinking back to, what was it, a year ago, the Silicon Valley Bank crisis, right?
Yeah.
As a business owner, certainly being able to have a human interaction about the most important asset
Yeah.
in my life, right, which is our bank accounts,
Yeah.
that's become even more important to me,
Yeah.
right? So above rates and deals, and right, it's really about the person or the
Yeah.
people, right, that I'm working with. How do you think about that when, you're chairman at Zions now, but how do you continue to nurture trust in an environment that is increasingly
Yeah.
becoming focused on technology
Yeah.
and speed of service?
Well, I think the way you do it is, as I said, that technology becomes an aid to help you do the business easier and faster and make it more accessible to the customer, but also that it makes it easier for the banker to provide that service. But you always have a banker there, and I think back during the pandemic when the government came out with the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, and people were so desperate to get this loan so that they'd have the money to pay their employees and keep them on the payroll. And there were some companies that were doing it all online, but I saw the frustration and the anxiety of customers applying and then not hearing. And when they could call and say, "Where are we? What's happening? What do you need? Am I going to get it?" And they have someone there that can really work with them and say, "Well, we need to do this, or we need to change this." It gives comfort to people, and I think that's the secret sauce that you can't duplicate with just technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Thinking back to that, you say PPP, and like my brain just scatters because I got PTSD from going through that time frame. Right? It was like the world is about to shut down. No one knows what's happening with COVID. 2 weeks to trend the curve, and now restaurants are getting shut down, businesses are getting shut down. You can no longer go to a common place. And for me and my company, we were trying to follow the new PPP laws on a nightly basis, right?
Yeah.
What's coming out the next morning? How can we get on a podcast and share that
Yeah.
with business owners and process that? And it was wild to see how many people were applying, needed to apply.
Yeah.
I could only imagine from the big bank standpoint of how many people were involved in processing
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of these
Yeah.
loans and go
Yeah.
through that. But One thing I do know, there's a handful of banks here in Utah that did get a lot of credit for the way that they process it.
Yeah.
I know Zion's was definitely
Yeah.
one of them. So it's awesome. You talk about the human interaction and having the trust of it. I think that's something that you guys definitely brought to the culture here.
Absolutely.
And that shows the importance of technology, because you couldn't have processed all those loans as fast as they were processed without the technology to do it. But you still had that human contact to help through the process.
So you keep one guy in the corner. That if someone comes in with a shoebox full of receipts, that's who they go see, right?
That's right.
You know, this makes me think about, though, in your 25-year tenure as CEO, like, I don't know if there's ever been a period of history that you've had as many crises as we've had over that, right? We've had the financial crisis in 2007, followed by, COVID, Silicon Valley Bank, 9/11 was in that time period. What did you learn, I suppose, Scott, right, about leading in times of deep crisis and uncertainty?
Well, I think when I think back over those periods, the thing that really stands out to me is first how important communication is. The people know what's happening. They know what's happening to your bank. They know what's happening on the government side and so forth. And then the second is having employees that will step up and stay true to the mission and vision of the organization. And for us, during that PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, we had employees that were up 20 hours a day, 5 days a week, just trying to get these applications processed before the money ran out.
Yep.
And the business knew that there was a pot of money, and when it was gone, it was gone. And if they missed it, they missed it.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just a pot here in Utah, it's a national pot. So they were competing on a national basis for that money.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a big jump from the technology side of it. Let's talk about the human side of it and the people that you have led over this career that you've had. What is one thing, I know Jen asked a question about how do you deal with the adversity of these crises? Who's been a big mentor for you when you've needed somebody in that spot?
Well, I've been lucky in that I've had a lot of great mentors. My grandmother, my parents, friends.
Jay Francis.
Jay Francis is a great one. Gail Miller. I mean, they're Harris Simmons. But I think when I started out my banking career, I was with Bank of America, and I was in San Francisco in the headquarter building. And at that point, Bank of America was started by A.P. Giannini in 1904, and he was an Italian immigrant to the U.S., and it was originally called the Bank of Italy. And it's interesting that at that point, you went to a bank only if you were rich. And so the common person couldn't get a loan. And he thought, I'm going to change banking. And so he developed what he called the installment loan. So you could come in and get money to buy a car, and you paid it back over a series of months. So you could afford it, and the bank could handle it. And then he came up with what he called the Bank AmeriCard, which is Visa today. And so he came up with all of these programs that took banking out to the individual. But his daughter, when I was there, was still at the Bank of America. She wasn't an officer, she wasn't a banker, but she was sort of the soul of the bank, Claire Giannini Hoffman. And she took me under her wing, and she really taught me the importance of trust in banking, the importance of serving clients and really trying to see what they were getting at, what they needed, and then providing the service that would make that would help them and not take away from them, which sometimes she said meant saying no, because if you knew you did it, it could destroy the business, it could hurt the individual.
Yeah, that's a fun lesson that I literally talk about on a daily basis, is getting a good loan versus getting a bad loan, or wanting a bad loan, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about being able to repay those debts and making sure that the customer's whole and the bank is whole. And we deal with so many requests where it's like, okay, so how much are you looking for? well, how much can I get?
Yeah.
Let's go backwards a little bit, right? That's probably not the best way to start it out.
That's right.
How much you need and how much can your business support? And I know there's a lot of education that goes into, borrowers and lenders on that side of it. What are the kind of things Zions Bank has to help businesses look for a situation like that? What can I afford? What can I do to help my business move forward?
Well, I think there's several things, and we do it at Zions, but it's done throughout the industry. It's done by credit unions and a number of organizations. We do a lot of educational programs, so we reach out and provide training for first-time home buyers. What you need to do, what does it take? How do you put the loan together? We do it for small businesses. We do it for entrepreneurs. What are your options? Can you do it on your credit card? Can you go to family? Do you go to the bank? Do you go to venture capitalist? And what are the benefits and what are the disadvantages of each? And I think when people understand that, when they become financially literate, then it makes a lot of sense. We actually also go into schools, elementary schools, and we teach them about savings. We go into high schools and we teach them about credit.
That's awesome.
And I think becoming financially literate, they become better business people. They become better citizens. They become more successful in their families.
That's also the reason that then they want to bank with Zions at some point, right? Because it's something that I talk about in my business, but when you say that, it like where it takes me is you care about me and my success as an individual, whether that benefits the bank or not directly, right? I think Zions is, I had an account, this is years and years ago, I was probably 27 years old, and you were sponsoring a course that was based on like Dave Ramsey's principles, which if you know him, he's like no debt ever, right? Kind of a guy. And that's exactly right? Like, why would Zions put that program in front of me, because it's not going to encourage me to go get a loan for the next great vehicle that I want to buy, right? But it's this feeling of when people know you care and how much you care, those are the people you want to do business with. Those are the people that when you do need help, you feel like I can turn and trust, and you'll give me something that I is going to be okay for me and good for me, not something that's going to get me into trouble. So.
Yeah, I think coming out of high school, right, and I've talked about this on our podcast before, is I was never really taught financial literacy in high school or from my parents. It was like, go to high school, go to college, get a car, get a job, move on. Well, how do you get a car? Now, later on in my career, when I'm helping, business owners, first-time business owners, long-time businesses that have been running for decades, everybody still seems to be in some spot, right? You can know how to run your business because it's your business and it's your idea and that's what you're good at. But there's so many different things within everybody's business that maybe you don't know. You might know your product, but do you know the back end of your accounting, or do you know your tax liabilities, or do you know your HR? And I think it's so smart, and I love hearing these stories about going into schools and teaching the youth of that, because if I had that when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, that would have been a lot better decisions.
You'd like to think so anyway, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we had, and just to emphasize that, we had a college student who came in about 2011, and he was working part-time, and during that period leading up to it, the government was really trying to get people to buy homes, to increase home ownership. And so you could buy a home without a down payment. You could buy a home without them checking on your revenue stream. And he bought 2 homes. And they were up by the university, and he leased out the rooms to students. So he had a real business there. He was bringing in more in rent than he was paying out on his mortgages, and then the crisis hit, And the universities, had problems. Students moved back home. They couldn't afford to rent. He had 2 homes and he couldn't make the mortgage. And he walked away with it. He walked away from the equity that he was building. But the sad thing is that affects his credit, which is going to follow him for a long period of time.
Right.
But it was just that he was trying to do more than what he should have done, and not knowing that can cause problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so we've talked a lot about what you've done through your role at the bank and for the bank. You are also an incredible philanthropist. You are very involved in the community. You've done some really you've made a significant mark on the state of Utah. As Jay Francis was saying, you're the man behind the curtain. So there's a lot of things that Scott has been behind, but you might just not know. I'm curious what did being of service mean to you as a leader, right? And so why did you put so much time and energy over these decades, Scott, into our community? Those are things you didn't have to do, but you chose to do.
Well, one of our guiding principles, if you'd say our mission or vision, is to be actively involved in community issues and trying to bring creative financial solutions to community problems. And I think when you do that, that's really what banks should do. And when you do that, the whole economy benefits. And when Zions was set up 151 years ago, Brigham Young said he was setting it up with the hopes that not only would it provide help for people trying to save money, and when we opened our doors on October 1st, 1873, we were paying 10% on interest, which is pretty good. But he said, I want it to become the very heart of the community. And we've taken that to heart, and when you are involved in the community, when you sit on chamber boards, when you work on community committees, you help bring solutions to the table, which hopefully will make it a better community, a stronger community, a safer community.
That's incredible. I talk a lot in my world about sort of the changing expectations of employees for their leaders to be more involved in the community and in societal issues. I've heard the story many times told by Pat Jones about your decision to start the Women's Leadership Institute. And so, I think that was 15 years ago that started. And the story goes that you read or heard about sort of this report that said Utah's the worst state in the country for women in professional roles. And you've made it part of your mission to help change that for Utah women. But that's not always been easy. And I'm sure many of the things you've been involved in have a bit of controversy behind them. So tell us, in the world that we're living in now, the divisiveness that we are dealing with, right? Like, how do you lean in as a leader to try and be part of the solution and not get stuck, right, in the divisiveness?
Well, I think if there's something that really needs to be done, and if you can bring people and organizations and ideas and money together, you can accomplish almost anything. And I think this is the same in making our economy an inclusive economy where everyone truly has an opportunity to flourish. And if we can't do that, our economy won't thrive, and our community won't be a place we want to live. And that means we have to provide banking services to all of the communities, all of the sectors, and do it on an inclusive basis. And I think that's really, really important. And you look at women, we've put up a mural on First South and State Street celebrating the 150th anniversary of the first woman vote and the 100th anniversary of suffrage being passed. And it's representation of women in Utah who were leaders in the suffrage, who started the universities, who started the hospitals, who started the art centers, who tamed the West. And I think at times we forget at how important women have been in this community. And I'm thrilled that sometime soon, we'll have Martha Cannon back in the Capitol with Brigham Young as our one of our representatives in the Statuary Hall. And I think the Women's Leadership Center provides resources to women to grow and develop. I think She Money provides opportunities for women to learn how to invest and to feel comfortable with money. I think the Boulder Way Forward that Susan Madsen is doing, provides a lot of opportunities for Utah to change and to make sure that we do have an inclusive economy.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for your work there and for the courage that I think it takes to lean into some of these issues. And it's inspired, the Junior Women in Business program here at the Chamber. We have a Women in Business group as well. And these have really transformed, I think, the conversation. We've got a lot of things that we still have left to do, right? And bringing more allies into to the table. But you've been an incredible supporter, and I just think thank you, because I think my business is in part successful because of that. So thank you.
Yeah. So help us as we close out this episode. What's next for you?
Well, I'm glad you didn't ask me how retirement is. Because I think that's a funny word. I mean, if you graduate from college, you don't say, I've retired from college.
Right.
You go on to the next chapter. And after spending 50 years in banking, almost 34 here at Zions, it's time to open up another door and to do other things, and I'm really looking forward to it, so it's a new opportunity to find new things to do and new projects to take on.
As sitting on the rodeo committee and wearing my Oakley Rodeo hat from Bolt Ranch store, we're going to try to get him into riding some bulls soon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we'll leave that up to the professionals to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure our families will both be happy if
Yeah,
neither of
that's right.
you or I
That's
step on
right.
a bull ever again.
Yeah, I think the gardening sounds really great.
Yeah.
I'm sure Scott's wife would agree. I'd love to come and buy from your organic garden once it gets going. Don't hang out with Dave.
We'll get in a lot of fun trouble together. Yeah. So, I mean, Scott, we appreciate you so much for being on this episode, being here for the South Valley Chamber, all the wonderful things that you've done for Utah. It's unparalleled. It really is. And to be this is what Jade said, right? To be in your circle is very special.
Well, I think I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here, and I am so impressed to see what the South Valley Chamber is doing, how it's expanding, the services that it provides, especially small businesses, and the assistance it's providing cities to grow and develop out in this area. And it's where the growth is taking place in our county.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, and it's fun to be a part of it. From the smallest aspect of helping small businesses understand what we can do to watching their businesses thrive. It's been great.
Yeah.
So, thank you for being a part of that and coming on our episode.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Scott.
Appreciate it. Good.
Everybody else, thank you for tuning into the South Valley Chamber podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.